Hello friends and welcome to Study Center. We are discussing Indian polity for SSC CGL. In the previous session, we discussed different sources of Indian Constitution, and in today's session, that is session 6, we'll be discussing different features of Indian Constitution. And some of them are federal system with unitary bias, parliamentary form of government, independent judiciary, and many others. Let's get started. A constitution of a country can be in a written format or unwritten format. America has a written constitution, but Britain, on the other hand, has an unwritten constitution. By unwritten constitution, we mean that their rules and regulations are not written anywhere. While in India, we have a written form of constitution. That means our constitution is a single document, right? But in case of Britain, they don't have a single document, and their constitution is mainly based on customs and previously issued government orders and judicial decisions. By unwritten, we only mean that the constitution is not documented in a single document, right? The Constitution of India is the lengthiest and most comprehensively written constitution of the world. It contains fundamental principle of governance and detailed administrative provisions. Originally, the Constitution of India contained a preamble, 395 articles, which were under 22 parts and 8 schedules. As on recording this video, our Constitution has a preamble, 470 articles, which are grouped under 25 parts, and it has 12 schedules. Understood? Constitutions can also be categorized as rigid or flexible. Mostly, written constitutions are rigid in nature. They require a special procedure for their amendment. So, the American Constitution is a rigid constitution in nature. On the other hand, the unwritten constitutions, like that of Britain, is very flexible in nature, as the amendment in the constitution can be made as the ordinary laws are made. One of the demerit of the rigid constitution is that they are not evolving with time. On the other hand, as flexible constitutions follow the generally practiced customs, they are evolving with time. The Constitution of India is a good blend of rigidity and flexibility. It is flexible because it is evolving with time, as it can be amended, right? And it is also rigid, as the procedure of amending certain part of constitution is not that easy. And the basic theme of the constitution also cannot be amended. And for these two reasons, the Constitution of India is both rigid and flexible, right? India follows a federal system with unitary bias. That means it has federal features as well as non-federal unitary features. Some of the federal features are two-level government. That is, in India, we have a central government for the entire country and state government for the respective states, right? And the power is divided between center and state with 3 lists. And those are the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Another federal feature is that it has a written constitution, and the constitution has the supremacy. That means nothing is beyond the constitution. Nothing is above the constitution, right? It has an independent judiciary, which is also a federal feature, and bicameralism. In India, we have an upper house, which is called Rajya Sabha, and a lower house, which is called the Lok Sabha. And what are the unitary non-federal features? Strong center, single constitution, single citizenship, flexibility of the constitution, integrated judiciary, appointment of the state governor by the center, all India services, and emergency provisions. So we can say that India has a balance between American system of judicial supremacy and British principle of parliamentary supremacy. Keep in mind, the term federation is nowhere written in the constitution. Article 1 of the constitution describes India as a union of states, not a federation of states. In a federation of states, a state has an option to secede from a country if it desired to do so. But that option is not there in case of union of the states. Understood? Now let's move forward. While making the constitution, India opted for a parliamentary form of government, rather than a presidential system of government which is followed by America. In a parliamentary system, there is a principle of cooperation and coordination between the legislative and executives, right? But in case of presidential systems, there is a separation of power between the legislative and the executive organs. Now let's see what are the features of Indian parliamentary form of government. In parliamentary form of government, there is a presence of nominal and real executive. Like in India, we have president who is the nominal head and the cabinet ministers are the real executives. The parliamentary form of government has a majority party rule. That means whichever party people elect by voting gets the opportunity to rule the country. In the parliamentary form of government, the executives are collectively responsible to the legislatives. It has a feature of a dissolution of lower house. That means a lower house can be dissolved. Although India and Britain both follows the parliamentary form of government, there are some exceptions, like the Indian Parliament is not a sovereign body like the British Parliament. Number 1. Number 2 is the state head of India is elected, but in case of British, the state head is hereditary. One of the most important features of Indian Constitution is its judicial system, that is integrated and independent. In India's judicial system, the Supreme Court stands at the top of the integrated judicial system. Below it, there are high courts at the state level, and under the high courts, there is a hierarchy of subordinate courts, that is the district courts and other lower courts. So there is a Supreme Court at the top, under which there are high courts at state level, and under the high courts, there are subordinate courts like district courts and other lower courts, right? This single system of courts enforces both central laws and state laws. Unlike USA, the federal laws are enforced by the federal judiciary and the state laws are enforced by the state judiciary. Understood? In India, both the central and the state laws are enforced by this one and only system. That is, Supreme Court at the top, High Court at the district level, and other subordinate courts at the lower level. So the Supreme Court is a federal court. It is the highest court of appeal and the guarantor of fundamental rights of the citizens and guardian of the Constitution. So who is the guardian of the Constitution? This thing we have discussed in the very first video. The answer is Supreme Court. And who is the custodian of the Constitution? Can you recall it? Now let's discuss about citizenship. In USA, each person enjoys a dual citizenship. That is, one of USA and other of the state of which he or she belongs. Although Indian Constitution is a federal constitution, that is, it has a center and states, it provides only a single citizenship. That is, a citizenship of India. And this thing promotes brotherhood among the citizens. And one of the last important feature of the Constitution which we'll be discussing in this video is the universal adult franchise. The Constitution of India adopted universal adult franchise as a basis of elections to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. What is it? Every citizen who is not less than 18 years of age will be called as an adult, right? And he or she will have a right to vote without any discrimination of caste, race, religion, sex, literacy, wealth, and so on. Right? Previously, the voting age was 21, but by the 61st Constitutional Amendment Act of 1988, it was reduced to 18 years. So those were some of the important features of Indian Constitution. In the next video, we'll be discussing about the preamble, which is also called as the introduction to the Constitution. Thank you for watching till this point and see you in the next video.